Hello everyone! Today we continue working on the hair in our portrait. At this stage, we will be adding new strands, refining the direction, and gradually increasing the volume. I will show you how to carefully connect light and dark areas so that the hair looks more natural and alive. Let's begin. Well then friends, let's finish drawing the hair. I think we will start from the top and move gradually left, right, and down so as not to smudge the work. I will probably take a B pencil to start, because it is hard, and here we have the light part of the hair, so we don't need to darken it much. Let's use strokes following the shape of the hair to finish the top part of the head. For now, we are building a middle tone, and later, where needed, we will add shading with semicircular strokes. We can do a little blending, because here the strokes are not very distinct. Our task is to show tonal patches, just as in the rest of the work we have been doing. Here we'll shade and make a smooth transition, so there are no sharp lines. We built up the tone, and now we need to draw separate strands where we have shadow. That is, we see that here, in this triangle, we have a shadow. So we slightly densify it. Then it goes approximately like this and rounds here. And from here also goes in a triangle and joins at this point. So this part needs to be slightly darkened. Good. Now, looking further, this strand also needs to be made darker. Here we have approximately an even tone, but it will be slightly darker in this part, and here lighter. So we add tone in the middle. And here it will be even darker, so we make a smooth transition from shadow into halftone. We blend the transition. And here we also see such a line. Then here we also see a little dark line. And here too. Next, the top part can also be slightly darkened. And here I think we can make it even darker. Here we can also show a line in a semicircle. And here as well, make it darker. Thanks to the way we place light and shadow in patches, we get the effect of volume. Here we can make it darker and sharper at the edges. Next, here too, we can slightly darken the strand. I might even take an HB pencil. Here the transition is strong, so probably here we will also darken it, so it doesn't catch the eye too much. Or maybe even use a 2B pencil. Now we need to show some strands here too. That is, we see that here it is darker, and such a radial gap. between the hairs goes. Then here we can also show. Here. Here too. And closer to the parting, we slightly darken. Here too we can slightly darken the parting for contrast. With this kind of radial stroke, as I showed here, we can slightly curve it here. Here some hairs are visible, and I show them with a semicircle. Not with a straight line, but slightly curved, to show the form of hair growth. Here a little. Here there is also a swirl in the other direction, and it joins with this shadow. Next we continue to the left side, and here we have such a curl going this way. And here some hairs will go like this. So first we draw the shadow ones, and then we take an eraser or kneaded eraser and draw the light ones. We get the impression of light hairs. From under this strand also comes such a little triangle going the opposite way. When we set the form, now we can draw the light hairs. I take a thin eraser, and just like with a pencil, I draw the light sections with these kinds of movements. Here we can also show some separate hairs with the B pencil, like this. Here we didn't build up enough tone, so here too we add with the B pencil, shade here, and make a transition into the forehead, so it's not too light here. It's the same principle as when we drew highlights on the lips. First we make dark sections on the left or right, and next to them we draw light ones to show the effect of light hairs. And we can also soften these hairs on top, so the transition is smoother. Here we can see as if there are light hairs. Here. We'll slightly adjust the shadow. Now I'll take an HB pencil, or even better a 2H, and lightly draw some light hairs, so we have dark, light, and middle tones. And now I will also take a blending stump, and at the bottom, in this area, I will blend these hairs downward, so they smoothly transition into the forehead with light movements. And once more with the eraser, I will draw light areas without pressing too hard, so as not to overdo it. And this shadow we can highlight a little more. I'll probably take a 2B pencil and show it brighter, a little stronger. Because in the photo, it really catches the eye. I think that will be enough. And here too, I'll add one more hair. Here too, we can also show with the eraser a light hair. And here too. Now we need to slightly blend this shadow at the edge, so that it smoothly transitions into the tone of the face. We can even take a blending stump. Now let's continue downward. For now, I will start with a 2B pencil, because here is a dark section, and we will show it more strongly. When drawing hair, strict accuracy is not necessary. We don't have to draw every single hair. That would take too much time and isn't really needed. The main thing is to show the general form of the strands and how they go, to place the main accents of light and shadow. Here, we need to make a transition from halftone into light. So I'll take a harder pencil, for example B. I'll add tone to this strand a little, because it's not white. We can't leave the paper blank. We need to make it a little darker. Also here. Further, it will go into light. But again, the light area we will also shade lightly, because even though it's a light area, it cannot remain pure white paper. We need to show at least a bit of tone. And we make a smooth transition from dark into halftone and later into light. Here we can also show some separate hairs. Add a little texture that way. And move into the light. Add a bit of tone. But it should be lighter than the shadow, but darker than the light. So we get such a smooth transition. Here too we add. And this upper part will also be darker. We see that it starts merging with this part, so it is darker, so here too we darken a little, so they have different tones. Accordingly, contrast appears, so they don't merge with each other. Here we can also slightly remove with the eraser such a separate strand. We move further down. I see that here we don't have enough hair, so we can add some here for more volume. And make it darker. Here we need a 2B pencil to show separate dark strands. We combine pencils of different hardness and softness. This is the light part. we don't touch it. And we need to make a transition also from this strand, where we have halftone and light. So again, I take the B pencil, starting from the dark section and gradually easing pressure. On the left side, we will have such a tone. And when we move into light, I gradually reduce the pressure, or as you see now, with a radial stroke. Here in the middle, we also see a separate strand. We can draw it a little. Now here we densify a bit. And again, we make a transition into light. We go lower. This strand we can make a little thicker and brighter, because it got a bit lost when we added tone on the left and right sides of the hair. So we densify it a bit and can make it a little thicker. This strand we also draw. Here too there is a small strand. We need to add a bit of shadow on the left, or rather on the right side. Such a shadow. Slightly blend it, and also on the left side. With a thin line we show shadow. And with the eraser we lighten it. Maybe make it even thinner. Now we lighten it. And make it a little thinner. Here too, we can show one hair a little darker. With such patches, we place accents. The more details we add, the more realistic it looks. Next, we move further down. I densify the shadow on the left side. Next, we need to make a smooth transition from this shadow, again with such strokes. Let's build tone here, a bit missing, with light pressure of a B pencil. And further, it will go into light, here with even lighter pressure. We can even take a blending stump and smooth it. And now let's again draw some separate strands that are in shadow. Here from bottom upward, starting darker and lightening. At the bottom, we densify with such a radial stroke, make a smooth transition into halftone. Darker at the bottom, lighter at the top. Also, here at the edge, we can show some separate hairs. Darker. I think that in principle this will be enough. Now we make a transition from here downward. Here we have a light transition. And we can draw some separate strands again, looking at the photo, placing the main accents where we see them. For example, this strand is visible in the photo, so we add it. Some we can just place approximately, not necessarily exactly where they go, just to show the form of hair growth. This strand we can show a little brighter. And next to it goes another, parallel to it. We draw it too. And then both fade out as we reduce pencil pressure and bring them into light. The same upward. Next to it goes another one in the middle. We also move it upward and downward with a radial stroke, like this. But here, we need to add a bit more shadow. We also make a smooth transition from the middle of this strand into light. That is, I blend the edges. And I think we can even darken a little to make the transition from halftone into light more visible. And here, on the contrary, lighten. Now I'll take an eraser and show this light section. We also need to show here a little, and also draw some light hairs in some places, so it's clear that this is light hair. Here we can lighten more like this. I think we can leave the left side for now and move to the right side. Let's now draw this bang. I'll probably take a 2B pencil and also start with the dark sections. Here. Right under the strand, we will have the darkest part. Then here, with radial strokes, we can also show some hairs. And then I'll probably take a B pencil so as not to over-darken and also show the dark sections here. We see it's slightly darker here. I draw some separate hairs just to show the form of hair growth again. I repeat. Now we can shade. Also here I'll shade, because again, we can't leave blank paper. And now let's show the halftone sections a bit better. Here it will be darker. We will blend here more strongly. But we need to make a smooth transition, so we take the blending stump and smooth this transition. Don't press too hard so as not to overdo it. Same in this direction. We can add a little shadow here too. Here we see that there is a darker transition and it's not smooth. So here at the edge we don't smooth too much. Here we lacked tone on the face. Some spot remained. Let's add it. I would also smooth this part with the blending stump, because it came out a bit porous. Like this, it is much smoother. We can also go a little here. Also blend to make the transition smoother. And further here, we'll also stretch the tone a bit into the middle. This will be such an effect as we did before, with radial strokes with the pencil. Only now we stretch the tone. And now let's draw some separate patches. For example, here we see it as slightly darker. Here we add. And here too. Here we also see a separate hair, a separate strand. We show it a bit darker. Here too we can add a little tone. And here too. Here, I'll make the transition smoother from the dark line, almost joining. And here too. There is a separate line, only slightly lighter. And now let's again take the eraser and add light sections. That is, we see that here will be some light hairs. We lighten slightly with the eraser. Then here we can add some hairs. Here. Also here we can add light hairs, and thus we make the transition smoother. Here I'll probably also take a 2H pencil. And add some not very dark hairs. By layering, we get such a hair texture effect. By layering pencils of different hardness. Also, here we can show some separate strands like this. This with a 2H pencil, a hard pencil. Here we can make some strands a little darker. And slightly darken this part. And I also see that here will be a lighter section. So here too we can show some hairs with the eraser. First I remove the tone, and then with a harder pencil I can add it. And in this way it turns out lighter than the main tone, but still contrasting. And now we have hair texture and tone. And for now at this stage we will stop. Great! Today we made a very important step forward. We added more details and increased depth in the hair. In the next lesson, we will finish the work on the hair and move on to the final touches. See you soon!